Ladies, gentlemen, am I often forgotten, but certainly not by me, Mind Runes. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to another guide. This is the second video in this little guide series that I'm doing of all dungeons with all combat styles, and today we're looking at Elite Dungeon 1, once again, Temple of Aminishi, and today we're using the magic combat style. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this guide. Alrighty, so taking a quick look at my gear and whatnot that I have going on is just kind of a standard magic setup, just like any other video that I use, with a few differences here and there. So obviously, first and foremost, FSOA is in this preset. It is very useful here at Elite Dungeon 1, and it allows you to go pretty quickly through most of the bosses and kind of ignore a few things as far as spamming food is concerned, at Masuda specifically, being that you can autocast Blood Barrage and gain back a lot of health. The two crystal dagger theirs are just a bladed dive swap. You can use anything you have, whether it be like augmented flowers in your Excalibur or something like that. Whatever you have is your bladed dive swap, go ahead and toss that there. The tier 88 offhand is just a roaming swap for G-Chain. It's pretty important to have G-Chain for this dungeon, being that you can use it almost anywhere and it makes mob clearing much faster. The yellow potion above that swap is the power burst of acceleration. This allows you to infinitely bladed dive and surge for 6 seconds, which is very useful in 2 different spots in the dungeon. And the potion next to that is just my blessed flask for prayer. The EOF in the inventory is my Armadyl battle staff EOF, and the one that I'm wearing has G-staff in it. This is kind of a standard setup for magic at this point, and there might be a couple other EOFs you can fit in here. If you want to bring a SGB swap, you could bring like a physical ECB or a Bow of the Last Guardian, or just a physical SGB, and I could see that being pretty useful on maybe the head and on the first boss, although those are the only 2 places you can really get away with using SGB EOF, so it's up to you. If you're not using the food, you might as well, but I would just call that personal preference. The Defender is there just as a potential shield swap for when things go wrong. Bring whatever shield you have. I just brought a Defender, just kind of says to change it up a little bit. And for the food, I went ahead and brought Guthix Rest and Blubbers. I did this so that I'm not draining my stats constantly with brews, because you don't really need the food with magic, being that most bosses are not really going to hit you too hard, and you have healing methods outside of food to get you back up to full HP in no time should you run into any trouble. Dominion Mines are mainly used at Siru for the crystals. However, there's a couple mobs you probably could use them on throughout the dungeon. If you find any spots that you like to use them other than Siru, let me know down in the comments below. And then the rest of the inventory is kind of self-explanatory. Adrenaline potion for gaining adrenaline, after ultimates, overload because they're pretty important, and lucky charms to try and get that sweet onyx dust, and maybe even something a little bit better. I do bring Luck of the Dwarves in the preset. I'm still waiting to see if this update comes to fruition. It's been talked about a couple times where Luck of the Dwarves Relic is going to be made 50 cost for Relic Power, meaning that I could use Conservation of Energy, Berserker Fury, and Luck of the Dwarves, and that would be fantastic for running Elite Dungeons, because then you can always see how many scales you're getting, and you're never going to get a cheese and tomato bata in this dungeon, and that's why I bring tier 4 luck here. And I say it all the time in all my other videos, but I am still deathly afraid of getting a cheese and tomato bata, especially a doubled one, so I just bring Luck of the Dwarves for the trash mobs, and then I swap to my Reaver's Ring when I need the crits. As far as the armor and equipment there is concerned, it's pretty standard perks. C4 R5, M4 Devo 4, those are pretty standard magic perks, and then Biting 4 and Impatient 4. Both of those perks work really well for FSOA. Impatient does give, or not Impatient, sorry, Invigorating 4. Impatient 4 is useful, but so Invig 4 is the one there on the bottom right on the row bottoms, and they give 0.5% adrenaline per auto attack, so when you're spamming out a bunch of autos with FSOA, the little bit of extra adrenaline there, it is very helpful for getting out some good rotations. And the perk that is comboed with Biting is Hoarding, and what that does is it allows Protect Item to save 2 extra items instead of 1. There's multiple ways to get around this. I believe there is a powder form for Protect Item, there are item or portents of item protect, and there's a couple other things. I just have the Hoarding perk because it was the easiest to do when I did it, and I don't really have any reason to use any other ones. And then somewhere on your gear you want mobile. Some people combo it with Impatient 4, some people combo it with Biting, and as long as you have mobile somewhere on there. Devoted is not the most vitally important perk in this dungeon, so if you have some other perk combo that you want to run and put mobile somewhere else, maybe up there with Impatient, you can get away with it. I've run a lot of Elite Dungeons a long time ago without any sort of Devoted or Enhanced Devoted, and I got along just fine here, so use the kind of extra perks as you need fit. However, the nice thing about ED1 is that there are no additional Slayer tasks or Slayer perks or anything like that you have to worry about, so you can just kind of full send your normal tectonic set. And obviously, last but not least, I'm just running the bog standard relics, Conservation of Energy, Death Ward, and Fury of the Small. I really hope that update does come to fruition, however, I haven't seen anything official about it, so we'll just have to wait and see. If you have any questions about the gear that I'm using, feel free to leave it down in the comments below, or if you have a suggestion for an alternative piece of gear, leave it down in the comments below. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into that example kill. Alrighty, here we are for the example run. Now, quick note here, you'll see just above my abilities and spells and whatnot, there's a program here that shows all of my keybind inputs. This is a program called NoBoard, and if you're curious about more specifics about the inputs that I use and whatnot, you can see all of my inputs here on screen, but if you want a more in-depth video on that, I do have a keybind guide, and I can go ahead and link that down below for y'all. And one quick note before we start, I'm just going to kind of roughly go over my path through the dungeon. So I only kill the minimum amount of stuff required to open each gate and then just send it on through to the next gate. And the only time I bank during this run is at Masuda. It is kind of a tight window for banking there depending on if you used bleeds. I try not to use like Corrupt Shot or Combust or anything like that before I go and bank at the chest just before Masuda. And since they updated the defense pylons to auto spam the ever-living hell out of you, I don't bank at 0 anymore. I don't have an alternate preset or anything like that. What you see is what I'm going to use for the entire run. Now, as far as aura choice goes, I personally use Maniacal just because I want the extra damage. However, there are no real accuracy problems in this entire dungeon with kind of best in slot gear. So you could easily go for something like Majorat or Dark Magic or Invigorate or Inspiration, anything you want to use there. If you're trying to save on your aura refreshes, you know, you can kind of rotate out between Majorat and Maniacal and maybe an extended Dark Magic or something like that, and you can really use this place to farm some Marks of War and build up a lot of refreshes to use in a later grind somewhere else. However, being that I kind of use all of my Reaper points now on refreshes anyway, I just go ahead and go with Maniacal, give it the extension, and pop right here at the Adrenaline Crystal. Alrighty, without further delay, that's enough rambling. Let's just go ahead and get into this dungeon. Turn on the Grim. Aura's ready. I think we're ready. Hopefully my recording is ready. Yes, it is. I forgot to press record earlier, so yeah, we're doing this again. Anyways, Bladed Dive on, and let's go. Surge down this hallway, and then run around. I like to click on this little line on the stairs, and then Surge Bladed Dive over to this tile right here. I'll target this guy, hit G-Chain with my Coroming, charge a Detonate, and release with D-Breath. And here, I like to Surge Bladed Dive same tick, surge as soon as I can, barge this guy and run through him. I'm just going to go ahead and pop a Magma Tempest, target this guy back here, and go ahead and use a Tsunami. Now, it doesn't hit these guys, so sometimes what I will do is Ice Auto and then run over to this tile right here, and then release Tsunami that way. However, most of the time I forget it, so a fun little lure here compared to the range one, I didn't know it existed until now, is you can just go in the same line as the center guy and just run back a couple tiles, and that'll put them right next to each other in shin range, which is really nice for your ice autos and your blood autos, and just damage those guys down and you're good to go. Put on the Coroming swap, charge up a G-Chain on this guy, the center one, release with an Omni. I like to take a step back and put a Corrupt Blast out while I do that. Debreath these guys. There's one on 400. Oh, and he ended up dying anyways. Convenient. Kill off the last guy with a G-Conk, run to this tile, take a step back. I'm going to go ahead and anticipate here. Surge with the release there. And then here, just put on the Bladed Dive swap, Bladed Dive Surge, use the A-Pot, Bladed Dive again, and same process over here, except you're not pressing your A-Pot again. And then just kill these three. Oh, this guy's still alive. I didn't notice. I thought I killed him, but I guess I got stunned. Happens to the best of us. Alright, now once he's dead, to run in a little bit, and then Bladed Dive Surge to this tile, and then we can just do a standard sun rotation. Just a standard A-pot sun rotation, so I'll use Smoke Cloud with my Tsunami, Staff Spec, G-Conk. Didn't get any crits there, so we'll just go ahead and Wild Magic, just fix. I'm just going to eat up for this hit, and I'll use Disrupt Shield for the next one. I forgot to Calc Spec. You know, that might be helpful. Let's go ahead and get my Wild Magic. 2-hit is fix. I planted back there, but it doesn't honestly matter. Use Disrupt Shield, and then charge a Detonate. I'll go ahead and release it with a Magma Tempest, and then G-Conk into an Omni. And then just Thresh here and finish off the kill. 1 minute flat is a little bit slow. Didn't get the best crits there, but it is what it is. Sometimes that boss is really fast, other times it's dead slow, just depends on crit RNG. There, I just Bladed Dive Surge, and then Surge again down this hallway, and I run up the stairs and attack this one. Now this time we did get the Hanto here, so I'm going to try and kill this guy as quickly as possible. Sometimes he aggroes, sometimes he doesn't. It's kind of dependent on where he spawns in. And then here, I'll just use a Corrupt Blast on these guys, charge a Dedo, get the Devotion extension, kill off whatever's left, and we're good to go. You only have to kill those 3 mages to get through the gates. You don't have to touch the rangers, so just use Devotion to get through them. Here, it's just use your Excel Pot again. If you're going really fast through the dungeon, you might not have Excel Pot for that part, but if you do, it's just 3 same tick Bladed Dive Surges, and if you looked at your pathing on a map, it would kind of look like half of a hexagon. So here, just use a Corrupt Blast, a D-Breath, and use some basics to kill the rest of them. Now what I like to do here is Bladed Dive Surge up to this tile, and then use Corrupt Blast again on this guy, and it'll bleed all of these guys down here. Dedo on the center one, release with a Tsunami, D-Breath, and all of these should be wiped out. If there's any stragglers, just kill the stragglers. Use a G-Chain into A as fix. And just basic this guy down. Surge across, and then here I like to Corrupt Blast, and then Ice Rack, target the other one, D-Breath, Ice Rack him, they should die. Oh, needs a little bit of extra help. A little bit of extra assistance. Surge Bladed Dive to this tile here. And then here I like to G-Chain, Omni, I'm going to pop a Magma Tempest, charge up a Detonate, and release with a D-Breath, and they die. You can either use Corrupt Shot or Corrupt Blast or Magma Tempest. It is totally your call there. And then just kill off these 4. And what I like to do is on this one, use a Ice Auto, and usually here what I do is Ice Auto freeze these guys, and so it'll make banking here a little bit easier. If you just want to go fast, you can surge down just fine without the Ice Auto, but that makes it a little bit easier. Make sure everything's on, and then Surge Bladed Dive. TC with a Smoke Cloud into a Sun. Drink your A-Pot, put down a Vuln Bomb. I'm just going to wait a tick there in Devotion, and then just start damaging. Put on Exsanguinate. I'm actually going to put on Blood Barrage just for the extra HP. Sometimes Masuda doesn't like to play around and really damage you, so Blood Autos are definitely a nice feature to have here. Just get some damage out. And he's already phased at the 32-second mark. I think the fastest phase I've had so far is around 27, and that's just like everything crit. So what I like to do here for the Thrashing Waters is some people like to stand south and just AFK and only kill the ones that are attacking them. I like to get all the damage reduction I can, and it's just kind of something to do during this phase rather than just go down and wait for them to spawn. Usually, like right on time. My overload usually runs out right around this phase. It's kind of a judge of what type of pace I'm on for a dungeon run. And if I see my overload ticking out kind of, you know, just at the end of phase 1, going into phase 2, then I know I'm on a pretty decent pace and about on average for my usual runs. Some people who are really fast will overload after Masuda. I'm definitely not that player. Those people are just lightning fast. Also, I will say if I do want to run this dungeon a lot more consistently and go for high kills per hour, GP per hour, I would definitely bring a Zerk swap for Masuda to, or not Masuda, for Siru to make that a lot more consistent. But since this is a Magic Camp guide, I'm not bringing a Zerk swap. I think that would be wildly unfair on a Magic Camp guide to require a Zerk swap, because that's not Magic Camp, that's Hybrid. I'm just going to put a couple bleeds on that guy and then surge over here to the stairs. The third hit when he starts this phase will always be the magic, and then it's, I believe, 5 or 6 autos of range, and then 1 magic hit. I never remember the order. And just like normal, I'm just going to do an A-Pot Sun here, kind of standard rotations. And here I'm not going to ABS again, I'm just going to keep at high adren and kill him. And we're already close to the staircase to go ahead and run down. Now I put on my Magic Prayer in preparation and go back to Ice Sphere. Bladed Dive swap on, and Surge Bladed Dive to this tile. Push off Devotion as long as I can. I happen to get a regular Devoted proc, so that was nice. And I kill the center one as fast as possible, just to try and get the Devotion extension, because these things, if you're not devoted, as you can saw, that damage adds up quick. Put on the Bladed Dive swap, and since I Bladed Dived here, I just use Excel Pot to refresh it, and start the fight with Siru. Here, I'll just use all 3 bleeds, and then go into a Natural Instinct. Use Calg, so I don't forget it later, and then I'll try to remember to use Calg just before I go up. This tile here is the go up tile. Use Omni and Attendees into an ABS. Yep, got the Calg off, and then run over. Right click to use Vuln Bomb. Surge up, place the 2 mines immediately, and just start thresholding. Go into a G-Conk here, and then Ice Rack and Ruin. Charge up a Detonate, and release it with Omni. Into another G-Conk, and it should be dead. Yeah, it's dead. And then just build here on this guy. Try to remember to get a Smoke Cloud off, and make sure a Vuln Bomb goes down. And go ahead and start another Sun. This time I'm going to A-Pot just to build up faster. An Auto Tsunami. Into the Staff Spec. Hopefully Tendies kills it. Oh, we got scammed. I can't believe it. Well, now we get to see what we do for a 2 cycle. Place the mines. Didn't get the walk back animation, so those went off, and then just ABS for the kill. And, well, go down here, G-chain these guys, and then I'm just going to put a Corrupt Blast on the other one. And, well, now you get to see what we do for a 2 cycle. So here I'm just going to wait for Sun to come back off cooldown. Don't have A-Pot or anything, doesn't really matter. Triple basic. And just kill the head as quick as possible. I will bring up later, after this example kill, an example of a 1 cycle, just so you guys can see that, and I'll talk over it just like I did in the range one. But it is what it is. I'm not the most consistent at it. I know there's people out there who are far better than I am that can make it more consistent. But anyways, just jump over to the shackle. You just have to get him to 7.2, I should say. 7.2 is the phase HP for the head. Had our mines dropped. I'll just put on Luck of the Dwarves preemptively. Release Dedo with an Omni. Use a couple bleeds. Maybe go for an Ice Rack. Into an Asphyx. E-Breath and Ice Rack and Ruin should kill it. Oh, that's a very nice drop indeed, and that's a really good reason to do Elite Dungeon 1. ED1 is really good consistent cash because you're always getting scales, and sometimes you get a really nice drop like that. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop into the example one cycle kill that I got on stream earlier. Alrighty, so here's the clip of the one cycle. I had quite a few of one stream. I think it was anywhere from 4 to 5 and probably 3 hours of attempt, so it's not exactly the most consistent, but I think with a little bit more work it'll get more consistent as time goes on and whatnot. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get into the example. So right here I just start out with the 3 bleeds per usual and stay around this area. If you stand 1 tile east or north of these tendril things, you won't get hit, but if you're 1 tile west or south, you will get hit by them. It's kind of a weird hitbox. But I just go ahead and go for a Sun, Nami, Staff Spec, kind of the standard rotation. And I believe I get some decent RNG here. Alright, went for the Omni into the Tendies, and I didn't even have to ABS spec here. I just went G-Conk and then went to the tile. This is the jump tile, by the way. I was 1 north of it, but if you're here, you want to get there because then he just auto walks over kind of slow. Target with a Vuln Bob, Surge, drop mines, and start threshing. And if you have FSOA spec left over, go ahead and do that. This is kind of the same thing I was doing before. Release Detonate with an Omni power. Get off some bleeds to get some long-term damage going. G-Conk is also your best friend. I did Wild Magic here just because the HP was a little bit high into an Ice Rack and Ruin. Smoke Cloud instantly into a Sun. And drink the A-Pot and just keep building up for now so I can get the Staff Spec and Tsunami off. And just damage it down. I think I use Wild Magic as fix here. Yeah, I use Wild Magic as fix because I had the time. If you can, save Tendies for the 3rd pillar here, because it's always consistent damage compared to something like ABS where it's kind of random. And I'm watching my mine timer, place down the mines, put it down in Omni, go into Attendees. And then Wild Magic is fixed and it should be dead. I like to 2-hit as fix into a G-Staff, as you can see there, and then it actually was a PB, funny enough, so typically that's what I'm doing. Is you always want a Omni, either Attendees. If you have to Attendees to get the HP down on the middle crystal like I was trying to do in that 2-cycle example, just send it. You don't exactly need Tendies because Magic 1 cycles are kind of RNG, or not kind of, they are RNG, and with enough practice in being able to read the crystals and the location of the blobs as they're coming up, you know, this is something you'll build up with experience over time, and your 1 cycles will become more and more consistent. I'm sure if I sat here for a week, I would have a lot of these like mini backup rotations and just know exactly what to do as, you know, time goes on and whatnot. It's just all experience building, and you know, you kind of got to send the dungeon to get better at it. Anyways, I hope this guide was helpful, and let's go ahead and roll that outro. Ladies, gentlemen, and I did not forget about you mind runes. Thank you very much for watching. Your viewership helps out much more than you know. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And until next time, I'll see you then. Peace.